I think though, like just for like maybe consistency's sake, we can have you just start every episode.
Yeah, we can do that. We can see how it feels and everything. Maybe this is something we should have talked more about before recording the very first one.
It's fine.
Um,
It's fine.
yeah, we can just sort of do it loose because I don't have a pre-written intro in mind. So I figured we would just sort of like maybe this is in the episode now.
Eh,
Maybe we're already
we
in it.
we
Who's
we,
to
we
say?
should have like some intro, like an official like, hi,
Yeah.
welcome to Televised, a TV movie podcast or whatever. TV movie story. That's what it is.
I mean, it sounds like you got it right there. Hello,
No,
we're in the episode
no,
now.
no.
We're there we go.
That wasn't supposed to be it.
Well, too bad we're already in it. This is if you're listening to this, I'm just moving into it. I'm just moving into the podcast. You can't
Go,
stop
go.
me. Hello. We're in a new podcast, which if you're listening to this, presumably you've listened to one or both of our previous podcasts, or you're just our friend, or both. That's not a mutually exclusive thing. Thank you for joining us as we start this new project together that's been in the works for a few months. I brought this to Eliza as just a hypothetical, and now here we are talking about TV movies. So thank you for joining us here in our pilot episode, where we are talking about Gia, a major breakthrough for Angelina Jolie. Hello. Hi,
Hello.
Eliza, introduce yourself.
Hello.
I should introduce myself before I'm Gordon McNulty, and this is my co-host, Eliza.
Hello. We said hello so many times,
Hello.
but I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited to that we're starting this. It's like I'm not sure what this is going to end up being, but it's probably going to be very fun. We'll see.
I would hope so.
Yeah, much more
We're
fun than the life of Gia, at least.
Yes, or the movie. I mean, it
Well,
is at times, it can be at times a fun movie,
it
but
starts very fun, I think.
yeah, it's an interesting one. It's, we wanted to start off with a big title, and we're playing around with how we're going to format the structure of like picking out our episodes because we have a master list of like 3,400 some movies. We're not going to get to all of them, and we're not going to be able to prioritize them. So
Yeah, I believe in us.
we're gonna try month by month, doing different ways of picking what the movies are, and we've picked out together what the first month of programming is going to be. I think next month we talked about maybe going with a full randomizer, or who knows,
Yeah.
who knows. But this
We
month,
we don't even know.
yes.
But
Uh,
this
we
one, should we say what the four movies are?
Yeah, I think I at least we have not yet recorded our little introduction mini episode, but I think if we haven't mentioned them then, we'll mention them now, in case you missed that episode anyway. Obviously, we're starting off with Gia from 1998. Next week, we are going into the supposed second ever TV or made for TV movie, even though on our list there's plenty before it, called The Hanged Man from 1964 or 5, I believe. And then the week after that, we are doing Babes in Toyland from 1986. I'm not great on the years on these, with Keanu Reeves and Drew Barrymore.
Hmm.
And then closing out January, we're going with one of our two-part miniseries, with the made-for-TV Langoliers adaptation,
Hmm.
Stephen King's The Langoliers. So a good mix of vibes, of eras, of types of movie that you can be, uh just to get like a good spread of what the offerings of this show will end up being.
Hmm. And what I like about Gia specifically as like our opening episode is like not only is it like one of the more well-known TV movies, has a big star in it, but also it's we talked about this how like Angelina Jolie is currently in public conversation for Maria, and it's just like it'd be nice. It's a nice way for like synergy or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, tie it into what people are talking about. Have you seen Maria yet?
I did. I saw it in theaters in
So did
November.
I. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about Maria at some point and our
Honestly,
thoughts on it.
it's a good combo with this movie is a good combo with Maria.
Yeah, it's an interesting sort of like side by side of Jolie earlier in her career versus as most recent as you can get with her, and both looking back on the different sort of public facing personas of the characters she's playing that are also kind of commentary on, Jolie herself as a movie star, which makes it even more interesting to talk about. But right now we are talking about Gia from 1998. As mentioned, it was an HBO movie, premiered January 31st, 1998. I couldn't find many like TV listings well, I found some, but I wish I'd been able to find like something more interesting. But we found like on CBS there was an episode of Early Edition, Fox, America's Most Wanted, NBC, The Pretender. These were all showing opposite the premiere of Gia.
Oh, okay.
I did find
I was
the
wondering what
H
you were listing.
yeah, I did find the HBO lineup for this Saturday that it played. It played right after the second showing that day of Twister on HBO,
Oh,
along with also like Rover Dangerfield,
of course.
Vegas Vacation, In the Gloaming.
Not the
Uh,
gloaming. Oh my God.
yeah. I also want to read word for word something that I got when I was trying to find these, because if your faith in the Google AI like search engine hasn't already been broken, I looked up January 31st, 1998 TV wrap ups. As January only has 31 days, there is no January 31st, 1998, and therefore no TV wrap up for that date. It is not a real date on the calendar, making it impossible to review television programming for that day. Thanks, AI.
Oh, beautiful. Love that.
January only has 31 days, so of course there's not a January 31st, you fucking dumbass. There we go. Yeah,
Oh
off to a
man.
great start with my research for this podcast. Uh, it was directed by Michael Christopher, written by Michael Christopher and Jay McInerney. Stars Angelina Jolie, Faye Dunaway, Mercedes Ruehl, Elizabeth Mitchell, Eric Michael Cole, whole bunch of people in mostly smaller roles, but it's got a good top cast there. Uh,
And it briefly has Mila Kunis as young
oh
Gia,
yes, yes,
who I didn't never really thought about how much she looks like Angelina Jolie, but yeah, she does.
yeah. It's good casting. It's good casting for young Angelina. What else about just like
So I
uh
I did write a little paragraph just like about like the production of the like where Angelina
right,
Jolie was
right.
in like her career and stuff. But also before I get into that, I sent to you a couple like clips from like not like just screen caps of like text interviews that she did, and one of them was just it's from like 2005 or whatever when she was making Shark Tale, and the question was just, "What is your part in Shark Tale?" Jolie says, "I'm the bad fish." My mom actually said, "Why are you the bad fish, honey?" And that just made me laugh so fucking hard.
It's a good quote. You can also hear Mercedes Ruehl as her mother in this saying something like
Yes.
that. Like it's
Why are you the
is
bad
not far
fish,
off.
honey?
Yeah. No, yeah, it's we'll talk about we'll talk about everyone in this movie.
All right.
That's the point of the podcast to talk about it. But
And
yeah,
there was another interview quote where it's like a it was at the time of Gia's release, and the interviewer was like comparing her husband at the time, Johnny Miller, I believe his name is, the guy from Trainspotting, uh,
yeah.
and comparing him as like Britain's Brad Pitt. And Jolie says, "Really? I don't know Brad Pitt, but that's certainly not how I treat him."
Oh
And
boy.
very interesting considering her future with Brad Pitt.
Yes. Interesting, I guess is one way to put it for sure. Yeah, do you want to hit us with
Yes.
that sort of rundown to this point?
Yeah. I need to find like because I did list off like the GF from 1998. Here's the cast, yada yada yada.
Right, right.
Um, So while you wouldn't really consider this to be Jolie's breakout role, that's likely Hackers from 1995. This was a major stepping stone in general for getting Angelina Jolie taken seriously, both as an actress and as a person beyond just the daughter of John Voight. Jolie was just constantly working during this time period with 10 different credits between 1996 and 1998, seemingly desperate to find something that would really take off for her, put her into stardom. And Michael Christopher, however, wasn't really looking for anything like that at this time. He was a working screenwriter and playwright, taking projects that he can get. He was offered the script for Gia by McErney and was asked to rewrite it. HBO was wary of some of the more lurid details of Carangi's life story, mainly her sexuality, and Christopher took the script and refocused it as a story of a mother and daughter, and a story about how those close to Gia had failed her. When Christopher had finished his rewrites and realized the film he had, he asked HBO if he could direct the film, and they said yes. Now they had to find a lead. Jolie was offered the part, but was hesitant to accept it. She knew the story of Gia and was worried it wouldn't do her justice, just exploit her story for the shock of sex, drugs, and death. But she talked a lot with Michael Christopher and heard his vision and felt safe with him. The part was incredibly daunting for her as she had identified heavily with Gia. Jolie was a former model. She was in the midst of coming to terms with her sexuality. She's had her fair share of pain and abuse in her life and was actively struggling with drug addiction at that time. It was a role she was going to put a lot of herself into, whether she wanted to or not. And I can get into a basic plot description if you'd like as well.
I mean, we can sort of go through it together over the course of it because it's not necessary. I mean, if you at a certain point, if you've seen a biopic of a someone who died tragically young and struggled with various things, it's not the most uh, adventurous in terms of how it presents her life story. It feels
Yeah.
kind of not by the numbers, because this isn't a movie that I would say is particularly by the numbers or traditional. Uh, but it hits the beats that you expect in a
Yeah.
biopic like this. It hits the brief look at her early life and family troubles that amount to her mother eventually leaving an abusive relationship and her getting older and leaving home, goes off to New York with a guy, gets a job as a model. Modeling goes well. She has a mentor. The mentor dies. Things get kind of hazier for her. She falls in love with Elizabeth Mitchell's character during her first real photo shoot. Uh, it goes on from there. It hits a lot of the beats you would expect. It
Mhm.
is doesn't stray too far from traditional biopic tropes,
Yeah,
you know?
it pretty much goes from when she was discovered up until she dies and just goes through her life there with, of course, plenty of artistic embellishments, I assume. I didn't actually research into Gia's true life story just because I felt like if I wrote about that, it would just be redundant with the plot, but I imagine there's plenty of differences. Like I know at least for one, Elizabeth Mitchell's character Linda is actually kind of a composite of a lot of different people in Gia's life.
That tracks, yeah. Uh, but yeah, where do we want to start in talking about the actual movie? I mean,
I think
probably
the
with
only place we can start is with Angelina Jolie.
yeah.
Actually have a quote here from Michael Christopher. He was talking to the cinematographer, and the cinematographer said, "It doesn't matter what we do; it's the Angelina Jolie show."
Yeah, I mean, you watch it and really you can't really argue with that. The reason this movie works to any degree and is as remembered and as beloved as it is now is because of this performance at its
Mm.
center. She is this is a star-making performance genuinely. Like you said,
Yeah,
Hackers is kind of a breakthrough and she has some other things that kind of work. Previous year also a TV movie, George Wallace, which she got an Emmy nomination for,
yeah.
but then this is a starring role. It's all her and she really just runs the gamut of just genuinely great acting. She is spontaneous and energetic and soulful, and her scenes with her mother are, tempestuous, to put it
Hmm.
one way, and her relationship and its sort of struggles that she has with Elizabeth Mitchell's character. What's
Hmm.
her name again? Is it Linda or
Linda.
something? Yeah. Like that whole kind of will they, won't they situation is as endearing as it is heartbreaking to watch because you know it's not going to end well, and you know that they're only going to end up hurting each other uh, by nature of how things play out between them. And it's just you can't take your eyes off her at any point in this movie. Not
Hmm.
in the like, oh well, she's Angelina Jolie, she's beautiful, like, but she's just so magnetic. She just has that movie star quality that even in something like this, which because it's on this podcast as a TV movie, like even in this, she elevates it to like movie star level of magnetism.
Exactly. He like that. This has to be like when people really start realizing that Angelina Jolie is like a real star. Like she is not just some nepo baby or whatever. She has actual potential. She can actually act. And it's like it's only the year after this where she wins her Oscar and stuff too. Who and there's this one line I wrote down from the beginning of the movie where she's hanging out with her boyfriend or whatever, painting his face, and looks over to this photographer guy. As she says, "So who are you looking at, him or me?" And it's like she's the way it's shot so that she's looking directly at the camera, and it feels a lot like Jolie herself. Let's just say, just like, just kind of, just kind of the self-aware thing. It's just like it's so good.
Yeah,
I,
I
I
mean,
the openings parts of this are
yeah,
so good for me. I
yeah,
also she looks so good as it.
the very opening to the movie, which is sort of a like over the credits, it's a montage of talking heads from all these people in her life talking about her posthumously, while you're also cutting to uh whatever the person is who like makes up your body for your funeral, and they're like
Hmm.
putting makeup on her dead body. And so we already know that it's where things are going to end, even if you don't know her life story. But in all these talking heads you get very conflicting reports basically of who Gia was, and like, was she like, I don't know. It sort of like lends itself to
Hmm.
the unknowable quality of her, that she is this figure that sort of was in these people's lives for a brief but very memorable time, and was just so ethereal that nobody really got her other than, Linda, really.
Hmm.
And with all of that, like, it calls into question a lot of like, her sexuality, and that's a big part of the character as presented in the movie. Is like, this is not a movie that shies away from depicting her as a queer character
Hmm.
that is, you know messy in a human way, in a way that is genuine and not just like the Hollywood sanitized version. And you get that sort of flirty, confusing nature all throughout. And in that scene where she's looking at us and the photographer, and then they go back with together with the photographer, and she sort of leads the two guys into kissing each other, and then walks away and
She
goes and
does the
flirts with.
challengers thing.
Yeah, she does the challengers thing genuinely. Uh, she just has like this movie. The camera is so in love with her, without like alienating us from her, without making her the same sort of unknowable figure that the characters around her are presenting her to be. It's a movie that is trying to get us to understand her in a way that only she really understood herself.
Hmm.
And you need someone like Jolie who has just like a natural charisma to be able to make that work, and to make this character feel like a character and not just a some degree or another of manic pixie dream protagonist. Like,
Hmm.
she has to be a real person and not just the images of her as a model. And by the end of it, like, we do see her, we do feel like we have a better understanding of her. And I don't know how much of that is on the page versus just Jolie really just inhabiting Gia as a person, you know?
Yeah, it's like I think a lot of it is due to Jolie, and I one of my biggest criticisms with this movie is just because it is just the way it's kind of written. It's like it's so just like fancy. It wants to have dialogue. It wants to make everything feel so self-important, and it's kind of annoying sometimes. But it's just like it really is more of a credit to the actors that a lot of it works well.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of points throughout where I kind of like when I'm supposed to really get in on like the politics of the fashion world and the modeling industry, like there's it's not like it goes heavy on any of that, but there's points where I kind of zone out when it's more about her career than about her. Like I don't I don't need to know too much about like Gia's modeling career and the specifics of it. That's not really what I'm invested in the movie, and it doesn't do a good job of or it doesn't do the best job of like making that interesting
Hmm.
specifically. Like I want to know more. I want more of her relationship with Linda, more of her relationship with her mother. I want like when Faye Dunaway's character dies, I don't really have the strongest feeling of why she's so like emotionally invested in that. Like she kind of took her under her wing, but like I don't know. I don't really have the strongest understanding of what that sort of surrogate mother relationship was beyond the fact of a surrogate mother type situation. Like
Yeah.
I don't. It's not the strongest screenplay, but yeah, the act like Faye Dunaway is great, even though the character is not given a ton to do.
I
Mercedes Ruehl is great, even if the character is kind of your your like stereotypical obvious sort of estranged flighty mother, like
mhm.
you know.
Yeah. And on Faye Dunaway, on Wilhelmina, like one, love her accent. I wrote that
Yeah.
a one specific moment when like a late night Angelina Jolie is talking to her on the phone, and Faye Dunaway says, "Why can't you sleep?" Laugh so
She's fun.
much. Um,
She's fun and big.
and two, the fact that she is Faye Dunaway made me think she was going to be a lot more of a presence in this movie. And also, she often gets second billing in like a lot of the places that were like listing the cast and stuff. But it's like she only has like four scenes. It's like you would have thought she'd be a much bigger presence in the movie, in
Yeah.
her life. And I'm wondering if like maybe there was like a lot of cut scenes or something, but like
I mean,
I don't know.
again, like I think this is something we're going to run into a lot on this specific podcast is it's a TV movie and to get people to watch that if on like the one time it's airing, if you have a star in the movie, you're gonna bill them higher regardless of really their prominence in it. Like Faye
True.
Dunaway is a name that's gonna get people to watch this movie more so than Elizabeth Mitchell or Mercedes Ruehl in
Hmm.
1998. Like Faye Dunaway is in your movie, you're putting her second on the billing because it's Faye Dunaway and because
Hmm.
it's going to get people to watch your movie. Even though you're right, she's barely in it and doesn't do very much. She's good. It's a good performance from her. It's fun to watch, but like it just sort of comes and goes, and then she's like we don't really dwell on it nearly as much as I was expecting.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. I don't know. We're starting this podcast off. We're still getting a handle on how we want to do things here. So cut us some slack here as far
We're,
as
we're, this podcast is meant to be a bit loosey-goosey. We just kind of
yeah,
move wherever we want to go.
we're
And
figuring it
I
out.
think where I want to go next is I want to talk about Elizabeth Mitchell. And written two specific notes about her. And they're both like towards the end of when I was watching this movie. First note was Elizabeth Mitchell is underratedly amazing in this.
Oh, she's great.
Yeah. My second note was like when I was looking her up, oh my gosh, she's a lost actress.
Oh yeah,
Because
no,
like god damn it, Gordon.
we're starting off with. Oh, I'm sure that this is gonna be a thing that pops up regularly. She's great on Lost.
Uh, but yeah, and it's just like the thing is, it's like when I looked her up first, like right as I was like writing that first paragraph and stuff, I noticed she played Linda McCartney in the Linda McCartney story. It's like, oh, that's fun. That'll be something like we can connect back to this one when we're talking about that movie or whenever we do that because that's probably something we'll put
At
great
some point,
priority.
that's on
Yeah.
there.
Uh, and I didn't even notice the lost thing.
Yeah,
It's like it wasn't until I looked her up a second time that I realized, oh, it's fucking Gordon's Lost show.
she's very good on Lost. One of the best characters on that show, and she's very good on it.
But
And it
yeah,
was nice. Yeah,
she is amazing in this. It's just like it's a very the most like naturalistic performance in this movie, which is like very fitting for the character. She's admittedly a square, and so it's like she isn't really part of the big world of Angelina Jolie and Gia. But it's like it brings a lot of like groundedness to this movie, and it's like it brings it so well.
yeah, she's very much a grounding force to Gia's sort of chaotic energy. And when they first meet, you can see the sort of tension building between them over the course of this shoot, and then Gia brings her in to also join in on this nude modeling shoot, and then they go back to her apartment and have sex. And the next morning, Linda sort of leaves and is like, "Oh, I have a boyfriend. I can't really do this." And then over the course of the movie, it continuously, like, they're both very clearly have some degree of love or affection for each other that they can't really act on or don't really know how to navigate, because she just wants her and doesn't really care about
Her
whatever social
boyfriend.
yes, her boyfriend, her obligations, whatever else is going on in her life. She doesn't care. She loves this woman and wants her to be in her life. And Linda wants it too, but you can imagine probably at least a little bit scared of Gia's spontaneity and her just sort of very forward nature. The confrontation scene after they've slept together, like Gia follows her out into the hallway of her apartment building completely naked and is like, "Hey, come back. Why are you leaving?" Like the elevator door opens and there's people in there and they see this all going on and Gia doesn't even flinch and Linda's just like, "What is I could never be like this, and I don't know if I could be with someone like this." And yet, she's still, also clearly in love with her and gives her a lot of leeway over the course of, Gia getting worse in, either in her drug habit or in her just sort of personality. and
hmm
and she's still, to whether you would call it enabling or understanding, is a fine line. And it's really heartbreaking, their ending, when Gia goes to see her one last time and they both sort of unspokenly know it's one last time, even though they're talking about it like it's not.
hmm
And their sort of parting of the ways at the door is just, it really works. For a movie that has some emotional beats that kind of fall flat from time to time, I think that
hmm
really works, and it's because the two of them are so great.
Yeah, I, they were just really, really good, and I really love the one time when Gia meets like Linda and her boyfriend are coming back from some night out, and Gia's waiting there in front of their door, and it's like there's a confrontation, and this is the first time Linda's boyfriend has met Gia or has like he just knows like there's some mysterious person sending Linda a bunch of flowers, and then it's just like at when Gia finally leaves or whatever, or the boyfriend says in a very funny way, "What the fuck was that?"
I miss
And
that.
then Linda says, "Behold the florist," which is maybe my favorite line in the movie.
It's a good line. It's a good moment. I took note of that as well. Uh, yeah, no, I think they're both really great. I think you know, Dunaway is a big name and Mercedes Ruehl is at this point an Oscar winner and a big character. But I think if I'm picking someone out of the cast that like really stands out other than Jolie, it's Elizabeth Mitchell, and not just because of Lost, but like it's genuinely a really great performance that if you don't have that role also well cast, I think the movie doesn't work nearly as well. Like it still has the Jolie performance at its center that still works as well as it does, but like you need a foil like this to play off her and for her to play off. And all of their scenes together were the parts that I was the most invested in by like
Mhm.
a significant margin.
Definitely, definitely. Like she's amazing. But do we want to talk about Mercedes role now?
Yeah, as this as her mother who she has an interesting relationship with and is in and out of her life and really just like doesn't get it and to almost a comic fault. Like she's bordering on comic relief in this movie at times with
Mhm.
some of her just like the point.
She's just very a very big character.
Yes, which is why you cast Mercedes Ruehl. You cast her to be this part because you need the character to be big and a little bit foolish. But like there's the scene where she's on the couch with Gia and like massaging her neck and oh, I don't like what the methadone is doing to your shoulders. It's making you so tense and all this stuff and just like uh just she has a strangeness about her
Hmm.
that you can tell is something that Gia is struggling with and like psychologically with the the mother issues that she has from feeling abandoned as a child and how that sort of plays in and I don't know. It's an
Yeah.
interesting dynamic, but it did feel a little bit like a stock character playing on tropes more so than a more fully realized mother-daughter relationship that I
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, like I do appreciate like how it does kind of address how jarring it is for Gia because it's like her mother leaves when she's like really young, probably like I don't know, 8, 9, 10 years old or
When
whatever.
she's Mila Kunis years
When
old.
she's Mila Kunis, 8 years old, yes. And then just randomly Gia visits her with Linda, um, and first of all, Mercedes rules she's doesn't really understand the whole gay thing.
Yeah.
Um,
You're
but then
sending flowers to a girl?
it's and she also says like do you have a boyfriend? And it's like I have a girlfriend, and it's like not really the same thing, is it?
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, but like from then she's in her life all the time, and that just certain jarring thing leads to this really like probably the biggest acting moments of the movie where
Yeah.
uh Mercedes Ruehl's trying to go back to her. I don't even remember what her character's name is. I just know her as either Mother or Mercedes
I
Ruehl.
think it's Kathleen is her name
Oh
or
yeah, maybe.
something.
I think I
Something
remember.
like that.
Anyway, Mercedes Ruehl's trying to go back home, and Aunt Gia is acting like very much like a child. Like you can't go, you
You
have to
can't leave.
stay.
You have to, yeah.
Hey, and then on a dime flips to like get the fuck out of here. And it's like they're both just shouting at each other, and Mercedes Ruehl storms off, and it's just like it's it it's a bit too big. It's a weird kind of scene, but at the
Yeah.
same time, the emotions are still there.
Yeah. It's a very, it's a hard-hitting scene that is big
Yeah.
and is not the most, I don't know. It's theatrical in a way that a lot of the movie isn't. And so it does sort of stand out in that way where it feels overly melodramatic in a way that the rest of the movie really doesn't. Even when it does fall into its sort of tropiness, it doesn't go to that heightened degree of emotion very often. And so it makes it stand out, but it's interesting at the very least.
Hmm.
Uh
Yeah, it's a memorable scene. Like, not only
yes.
was it memorable enough for me to mention it, but also I saw like multiple reviews like point out that scene specifically.
Yeah, it's a scene that stands out from a lot of the scenes that don't necessarily. Uh, what else? Where do we want to go
Uh,
next here?
let's talk about the costumes because the costumes are fucking amazing.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, there's
I'm
some
not
really
sure if
good.
these are all like actual photo shoot fits that she has done, but it's like there's a moment specifically. It's when she's like at one of the shoots and she's off to the side like doing coke or whatever, and the photo shoot director comes and has a chat with her, where I realize it's like wow, like she is so beautiful and so is everything she's wearing. Like this
Oh
is
yeah.
oh
Yeah.
man.
It does a good job of making you understand why she was such a like the first supermodel, some people have said. Like it really makes you understand like she wears these outfits like a model. She carries herself like a model. She just has that essence and like that yeah, it's a very well stylized movie. It's a movie that uh you can tell that it understands the fashion it's presenting and doesn't just throw clothes on its characters for the sake of mimicking what was in fashion in at the time. Like it lives in its fashion roots in a way that feels right for the movie.
Yeah, and again, going back to just how great Angelina Jolie is in this, it's like she just has but that unspeakable quality that it's like she has it. She just is she her role works because she has that star quality, and you can't really make this movie without somebody who if that person doesn't have that otherworldly star quality that so few people actually have.
Genuinely, genuinely. We should talk about the last sort of half of this movie or the last act of it and the you know at a certain point as her career is sort of waning a little bit. She gets into drugs, and that throws a wrench in, her being taken seriously by the very catty modeling industry and everyone around, sort of like sharks sort of swirling around,
Hmm.
waiting for her to bleed. And then that, makes her get more antsy and need the drugs more and goes through her whole it's the part of the biopic where she hits rock bottom because of her drugs.
Hmm.
It's presenting it very much in that way, to the point that you even have a scene of her in the clinic and it's cutting between her in the bed, writhing around, and is very Dewey Cox needs more blankets and less blankets. Uh, uh,
Oh my God, I forgot about that.
I mean, like that really is hitting the nail on the head of all of these biopics have that scene. Uh, uh, where
I need to watch Dewey Cox again. That's a good movie.
it's a good movie. Um, but like I couldn't not think about it in that sort of sequence where she's at the clinic and there's the other woman there who's chastising her for presenting unrealistic standards by being a model and
Hmm.
how that pushed her in her own way and in presenting that viewpoint it does sort of have something to say about like the struggle exists for all walks of life and but it doesn't like lessen your empathy for Gia's struggles as well. It doesn't,
Hmm.
but it also doesn't make you just like it's not wallowing in, oh, let's pity this beautiful woman. Like it's presenting multiple sides of yes, she had some degree of status and stature and privilege, and she's still, I don't know. I'm maybe not phrasing this as eloquently as I want to.
Hmm.
But it was a scene that I took note of with the other girl at the clinic.
Yeah,
Uh,
that was a really big moment. And honestly, that the other actress in that scene, the one who's like ranting at her, it's just like she's kind of a one scene wonder.
oh
She's
yeah,
memorable.
yes. But then following this, at a certain point, she starts getting really sick, and her mother takes her into the hospital, and she finds out that she has AIDS,
Hmm.
which is presumed to have come from a contaminated needle. And the ending sort of 20 minutes of the movie or so is the fallout from that and her sort of figuring out what she's going to do with her time. And the guy from the very beginning comes back into the movie, TJ or whatever his name is, just
Yes.
shows up again for I didn't really
Yeah,
understand why. He just like was
I,
back in the movie now.
I don't really understand their relationship. Like at the start, yeah, it seems like they're dating, and then there's one point where it's like he's moving back to Philadelphia, and then it's like he just randomly pops up here
He's
and there
he's
after
back.
that. It's
Yeah.
just like what's going on here?
It's a loose end of the movie that doesn't really need as much like we don't need as much focus on that guy. I don't know why he's consistently brought back and then dropped again, and he's not interesting. He's not an interesting guy. We don't need him. Um, but yeah, again, this is where you have the farewell scene between her and Linda, where she gives her the journal, which has been a recurring thing throughout the movie of these like storybook tales that she wrote as a kid of sort of wish fulfillment and the sort of fantastical life she wanted to live. And isn't it heartbreaking that, she did achieve some degree of like the modern Cinderella story and still didn't get the happy ending that she wanted. And it's sad. It's an effective motif running through the movie,
Mhm.
where you keep calling back to that. But even if sometimes the voiceover narration of it gets a little cheesy, of once
Yeah,
upon a time there was a girl with beautiful blonde hair and she lived in a castle, and just like it doesn't always work, but it does at times.
and similarly, there's the thing where it's you do be the prettiest girl, you do be that.
Yeah. Do I be the prettiest
The
girl? Yeah.
prettiest girl.
Yeah.
God, when
Uh,
the last scene with her and her mom, that crushed me.
yeah.
Yeah.
It works. It's a very emotionally intense ending that
And when she
could,
says, "Do you forgive me?" and it's just like, "Oh my God."
and then good because I forgive you too. Like
Yeah.
it's a sort of mutual coming together that like we did not do right by each other, and it's yeah, it's a very emotionally affecting scene that I'm sure by nature of this podcast, by a lot of the movies that we're going to cover are not going to reach these same heights of believability. Like we're going to get to a lot of movies with scenes that are intended to be as emotionally real as this scene that just don't work for one reason or another. Either
Hmm.
they don't have actors to the level of Angelina Jolie and Mercedes Ruehl, which I imagine a lot of them won't, or they're just not as well written or directed or just like utilized as this scene. And it's a scene that really works. And also a big part of it, and we haven't mentioned his name yet, but the Terrence Blanchard score throughout is
Yes.
an incredible score. I mean, it's Terrence Blanchard, so I'm not surprised because he's one of the best, but like
Hmm.
it's a really good sort of mournful score in the way that a lot of his scores hit that note, hit that beat, and really just like linger on that sort of ennui and melancholy, and it really works for this movie.
Hmm. Absolutely. I don't really have much to add to that, but I agree.
No, yeah, it's a great ending, and then they have I think it's a few different people talking about her funeral in the same sort of talking heads that it keeps cutting throughout, which was a framing device I didn't need. It
Yeah,
it works sometimes, but it did feel it was the most cheesy that the movie got is when every time it would cut back to the talking heads, and I would remember that that was the structure we were doing with this
this is our
movie.
framing device.
Yeah. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Here, I think it was fine, like to have her mother talking about like, oh, I didn't want the people at her funeral to just see her AIDS. I wanted to, she was a model, and I wanted her funeral to reflect that. And that
Mhm.
it's a note for the character to end on that I think I don't know. It works.
It does work. Yeah, it's like that whole last thing, and it's just like, and where she also is talking about how people were like villainizing her, Mercedes Ruehl, well, about like how she let this happen and things like that. And the film really tries to portray this complicated idea about like whether or not like how guilty she is in all of this is, and it's just like it.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure. I'm not really sure how well it does. Like, part of me is thinking it's like, oh, it does it really well. Sometimes it's like, could have done it better. But it's like it's at least trying.
It's trying, and sometimes it works, and sometimes it's a little like pleased with itself for I don't know. It's a complicated movie that I think by and large works.
Yeah.
And the ending where you have a sort of dream sequence of Gia getting up off of the bed
Hmm.
and sort of draped in her hospital bed sheets and walking towards the camera with this diffused soft lighting and voiceover narration of a poem from one of her journals and freeze frame and on
Yeah.
a freeze frame of Jolie's face looking right at the camera, and it's an affecting ending.
Yeah.
It's a good ending uh, that doesn't, even by the fact that it ends with a dream sequence with voiceover narration and a freeze frame, and yet it doesn't feel nearly as corny as you would expect if you were to just say it's a movie that ends with dream sequence, voiceover narration, and freeze frame. It makes it work in a way that I didn't even really until right now think about how it is utilizing all three of those very easy devices. Because it like in the moment it works. It feels
Yeah.
powerful
'Cause the
for
thing
what
is,
it is.
it's not even really a scene. It's just like a shot, and it's just.
Yeah.
But it's like I do love that shot where it's like you have the people in like these all white hazmat suits standing around her bed as she gets up and walks through them, and like pretty much like model walks away. Hey, and it works, and it's also like it subtly really shows like the stigma around AIDS at that time. Like
Oh yeah.
it re like it doesn't ever really focus on it, but it's like it does a good job of like showing how people how like the fear mongering stuff around the disease.
Because like she was one of the first famous women to die of it, if not one of the first famous people to
Mhm.
die, and like to have her death directly publicly attributed to AIDS. And that's it's a powerful story. It's a you see why it's a movie that ultimately justifies why there is even a story being told about her. Like, why are we making a movie about Gia? And by the end of it, I see why. I It justifies its existence as a biopic, and it's a good movie.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's a good way to end off our thought discussions of the movie. It's a good movie. I really liked it. I A lot of it is just the performances, but hey, that they are part of the movie. They can make it great, and they certainly do.
Yeah, I mean, we are no stranger to talking about movies with a great performance in them because that's my whole podcast
True.
is at least the theory behind it, and take it as you will because I've talked about plenty.
Yeah,
We don't
we're
need to talk about that. We're talking. It's a different podcast. We divorce ourselves from that one.
this is
Um.
basically the Cyrano of the modern era.
Oh, yes, exactly. Um. Yeah. Where do we do we
So
have more we want to say here? Or do we want to?
I think we're good on actually, I do have one last thing in my notes, and it's just another line reading really liked. It's from the scene where she meets Linda. There's another makeup artist there talking about Gia, who says, "Oh my God, she's a beast. She scares me."
Right. Yeah. It's a good. It's a good scene. They do a good job of making her in that scene where like she's got her hoodie on and she's sitting outside the agency and one of the models throws change in her coffee cup and she opens Linda's tab soda with her knife and is she's not like other girls or
Oh yeah, the
whatever. But
fucking knife.
Yeah,
She carves her name into this receptionist's desk.
yeah. Has the freak out at the end when they took her knife away
Hmm.
during the shoot. And yeah, the knife is kind of like the fourth character of this movie.
Hmm.
I don't know. That
Best supporting actor.
exactly. Uh, Actually, speaking of that, this did get a handful of Emmy nominations.
Hmm.
One for Outstanding Single Camera Picture Editing for a Miniseries or Movie, nominated for Best Made for TV Movie, for Lead Actress in a Miniseries or Movie, Casting for a Miniseries or Movie, Costume Design for a Miniseries or Movie, and Writing for a Miniseries or Movie. Uh, so it's a good showing.
Hmm.
You can understand that this was a movie that was big. She won a Golden Globe for it. So did Faye Dunaway as well, in a tie with Cameron Manheim for The Practice. She won a SAG award for it. Uh, just sort of
Yep.
skimming through what some of the IMDb awards are saying for this movie. This isn't like I don't think we're going to be talking with any of the other offerings for this month at least about awards. So like we're not tied to having a whole discussion
Yeah.
about the Emmys every time with like the
But
Langoliers. I don't well the Langoliers may have. I doubt
yeah,
it, but it
probably
could
like
have.
an effects award or something like
No, have you
that.
seen the visual effects for the
But
Langoliers? They're awful.
the fact that it had effects is probably especially for TV,
Okay, I'm
like
gonna look this. I'm gonna check now. The Langoliers, did it get Emmy nominated? Nominated for one primetime Emmy
for
for sound mixing
oh
for a drama miniseries or special,
the lone sound nominee.
and only for part two, only for like for the
Well,
second.
yeah, they tend to like specify an episode or whatever.
Yeah. So it lost that
And
to Buffalo Girls. Okay, sure.
okay, sure. I do want to make two notes about these Emmys, though. First of all, this outstanding TV movie category is kind of crazy. Like, not only do we have Gia, but we also have two other really big TV movies, The 12 Angry Men with Jack Lemmon, and then Don King Only in America, which won the category. And it's like, we're going to be coming back to this year a few times.
Oh, definitely. This is a
Plus just some other notable ones like What the Deaf Man Heard, and of course George Wallace was actually nominated in this year, not for TV movie, of course, but for outstanding miniseries. And it's funny, like Angelina Jolie got two Emmy nominations in the same year.
Oh, interesting. I don't think I clocked that they were
Yeah,
the same award ceremony year.
because the Golden Globes were different years, but for Emmys, because they're weird, they lined up.
Right, right.
Like, and so Angelina Jolie was also nominated for supporting actress in miniseries or movie for George Wallace, and lost to Mare Winningham and George Wallace.
I also should note that she lost this lead Emmy for Gia to Ellen Barkin for Before Women Had Wings, which is that a movie or a miniseries? Is that on our
That is a
list?
TV movie. It
Okay.
wasn't on our list before, I think because I was kind of trying to avoid like movies with more difficult topics just because we want this podcast to be a bit lighter, but it seems tame enough where it's like we could
Yeah,
probably watch it. And
it's
it's
possible. We'll
and
see.
it co-stars Oprah and it was made by Harpo Productions.
Do we have Snow White: A Tale of Terror on
I
this list?
I must have it already. I'll double
Has to be.
check,
It's because
but
Sigourney Weaver also nominated for Best Actress in a miniseries or TV movie, and I have not seen the movie, but I have seen pictures of Sigourney in it, and she is, because I think she's the witch type character in that, and
yeah, she's the evil
she's all
queen.
done up. Yeah,
Uh, this list is so extensive, it's hard to find. Uh,
yeah, that's true. You're not gonna find it just looking through on a whim.
okay, and I also was
Um,
looking at the wrong year. Hold on.
uh,
Uh,
yeah, I
yes,
hold.
it is on here. It's at
Okay.
number 2,399.
We've got a big list. It's a very long list. What else do we want to say here? Do we have any last thoughts, or do we want to?
Any
Uh,
like I don't know. Like we were thinking like do you have any other like post movie information, anything like that?
Not specifically. No,
Okay.
I didn't. I don't have much more to say about it. It's, it's a good movie. It's a
Yeah.
big movie. It's, starting off with one of the more notable ones we have. Certainly of this era. Like the, IMD or the letterboxed popularity is going to skew towards more recent, but like it's up there. It's one of the more known titles uh that we have. So yeah, hopefully we did it some degree of justice for our first. I mean, it's not our first podcast together or anything. We've
Of
done
course. I
like a dozen at this point collectively, but
yeah, because there was nine on, I think it was like 19 or something like that. So,
something we've done a lot.
yeah.
But starting out a new format, a new podcast altogether. We're testing the waters and seeing how we want to do this here. But hopefully, I don't have anything further to say here, and
I'm all out of stuff to say too.
all right. I think in that case, that will do it for this first episode of Televised, the TV movie story. We have not set up social media yet, or I don't know. I assume this is going to go out to all of the places that you can find podcasts, but if you're listening to it, you already know where to find it because you've found it to listen to it. But do you want to plug Twitter or anything personal? I don't know.
Nah, who cares?
Yeah,
Anybody listening to us already knows where to find us.
yeah, that sounds right. In that case, thank you for listening. See you next week with The Hanged Man.
Bye.
Bye.